Hello guys, this is Trinity Storm here and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do 9th part of Naruto the Unknown Dojutsu. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Neji stared incredulously into Naruto's eyes, raising an eyebrow in surprise. His eyes. He murmured under his breath. They changed color. He added, noticing the blonde's eyes had turned yellow. Before he could make another move, the intense brightness of his surroundings forced him to close his eyes and deactivate his Byakugan. What is this? He wondered. What became of his eyes? Is he a jutsu practitioner or something? He pondered before shaking his head. Impossible. Only the Sharingan and Byakugan are known dojutsus throughout the world. Assuming that everything was fine, he tried opening his eyes slightly, but quickly closed them again when he noticed that his surroundings were still as bright as daylight. Open your eyes again, and you'll be sorry. He heard Naruto say. Because everything is so bright, you won't be able to use your sense of sight while my illusion is active. Illusion, he must be employing genjutsu. I'll let him waste his chakra on this because it doesn't appear that he will attack me while in this state. He pondered before smirking. Such courageous words, Uzumaki. He began. Would you mind explaining this jutsu to me? I have no idea what you just did, but it doesn't change your fate as a loser. You're going to lose, one way or another. Naruto took a deep breath after an awkward moment of silence. At first, I thought I was too frail. That I lack the strength to protect those I care about. And myself. But I was too blind to see that I could always protect them. I felt like I'd always had that strength within me, but I was too timid to admit it to myself. So now I can. Uzumaki, we're not learning philosophy here. Neji sighed, irritated by the blonde. So put an end to this nonsense and accept your fate as a loser. Naruto burst out laughing. You're still muttering nonsense about fate? You have no idea what I'm capable of, Neji. Before the Hyuga could even object to Naruto's praise, the blonde continued. Did you not notice my eyes? You were wondering what happened to them earlier. What happened to that inquisitiveness? Neji laughed. Stop playing mind games, Uzumaki. Because this is genjutsu, you can. He was cut off. Nishoku, Naruto said, and Neji felt a jolt of pain in his eyes almost immediately. After a few moments, he no longer felt the intense brightness on his skin, so he decided to open his eyes. But when he opened them, all he saw was pitch-black darkness. Wait, what the? The Hyuga tried blinking a few times, but kept seeing the same thing. There was still darkness everywhere. He began to breathe heavily in fear of what was happening before hearing laughter in the distance. Someone familiar's laughter. You should see the expression on your face, Neji. Naruto laughed, while Neji frowned. You're so powerless. You had better respond right away, Uzumaki. What did you do to me? He demanded, turning his head in different directions to try to communicate with the blonde. Did you obstruct my vision in any way? If you did, congratulations on a brilliant strategy for defeating your opponent. Perhaps I did, perhaps I did not. Why should you care? You think I'm a jerk, don't you? Naruto spit out. I'll say it once more. You have no idea how powerful I am. My eyes, in particular, he said in a slightly menacing tone, causing Neji to flinch. I'd almost say I have the Sharingan or the Byakugan if I wanted to change my life, but I didn't. Do you have any idea why my eyes are like this, Neji? No, the Hyuga said. Uzumaki, are you even telling the truth? You appear to be looking to brag. I promise you will learn about these eyes. And you'll see that I'm not joking. Neji laughed. Then prove it, you big, dumb, low. Before he could finish, his vision returned to normal. Did he finally run out of chakra? He wondered before taking a look around. Who is the proctor? Check. The rowdy crowd? Check. What is the cage box? Check. Panting on his knees, Naruto? Wrong. When he saw Naruto still standing, the prodigy's eyes widened. The blonde stared him down, his eyes still glowing yellow as before. How? Genjutsu had worn off. He should be on his knees because he is running low on chakra. Did he deliberately cancel the illusion? He wondered before noticing Naruto performing a series of hand seals. Uchtengan. Dosei no Ringu. Tiger horse monkey ram dragon, Naruto screamed, flailing his arms. You Uchtengan? Neji questioned himself. What kind of environmental transformation is that? Wait. Space. Release? What does that even mean? He was immediately cut off from his thoughts, and his mouth gaped open at what he saw. The blonde smirked as 4 energy discs formed on top of Naruto's palms. The crowd's gasps and murmurs of confusion grew louder as they saw what Naruto was doing. Naruto's smirk turned into a grin as he threw his arms out again, this time launching the 4 discs into the sky, attracting everyone's attention. Tension rose in the arena as the 4 discs exploded, leaving a stunned audience in cages, a gaping Neji, and a grin on Naruto's face. Normally, Neji would dismiss a technique and return to the subject of fate, but this time he was intrigued. What exactly did you do? What was it? He inquired, his gaze fixed on the sky. When he noticed Naruto wasn't responding, he turned his head to scold the blonde for ignoring him, but he was interrupted mid-sentence by his opponent. Naruto was grinning like a lunatic who had escaped from a mental institution, his body slowly being covered by yellow light. Are we becoming interested, Neji? What's the problem? Do you want to know more about my eyes? Please respond. Neji didn't want to admit it, but what Naruto had just done earlier had piqued his interest. There were only 5 known nature transformations and bloodlines in the ninja world, but he was certain that space release did not exist. After all, how could he defeat Naruto if he didn't know what his strengths and weaknesses were?
The Hyuga inhaled deeply and crossed his arms below his chest. It's not like anything bad will happen if you explain things. I'd like you to tell. Before he could continue, he felt a strong kick hit his back, causing him to fall forward.
Neji clenched his teeth in rage at Naruto taking advantage of his frailty. When he looked up, he saw Naruto smirking. You want me to tell you something, don't you? Let me tell you something. He screamed loudly enough for everyone in the room to hear. Today, the world will witness a new jutsu. Not just the Sharingan and the Byakugan, either. It's my own unique bloodline, and no one else in the world has it except me. Everyone will discover my eyes, and you will see what they are capable of today. I'm no longer the spoiled brat you once imagined me to be. I've matured. You might think I'm going to use my powers to exact vengeance on everyone who has mistreated me, but I don't care. I'm not going to go there. I will use my powers to protect those I love and care about. As the yellow light completely covered Naruto's body, gasps could be heard throughout the arena. He yelled as loudly as he could. Look at the Uchtengan. The universe's heavenly eye. At the audience. It appears Naruto is going with it, Kakashi thought. He assumed Naruto would reveal the truth about his powers during his match yesterday because he had learned that the blonde had been training his eyes to their limit for the past month. Well, I can't think of a better time to spill it. He looked around at the Genin and Junin shinobi who were either gaping, stuttering, or simply stunned. I think you really caught them off guard, Naruto. He then noticed that a certain someone wasn't present. Oh, I'm sorry, his girlfriend isn't here. In the cage box. What? Exclaimed the cage, causing Hiruzen's eyes to narrow. Be careful, Orochimaru. Your hunger for power will be a dead giveaway," he reasoned before returning his attention to the match. "Naruto-kun is bringing it out? I need to keep an eye on this," he added. Hiruzen knew that the blonde telling the truth today would have an impact on his future. Furthermore, because the audience had no idea what Naruto's eyes were or what they could do, it's very likely that they would have mixed reactions. "I had no idea another jutsu existed." In his thoughts, Orochimaru said. "Is it a bloodline, or did he inject himself with the DNA of a long-lost clan to get those eyes? I think I'll put my plans to kill that brat on hold. At least if I believe his so-called Uchtengan is as powerful as he claims. Then let's see how it compares to the Sharingan." In the arena, Naruto was pleased to see Neji's shocked expression and hear the gasps from the audience. It didn't last long, though, because he heard a familiar voice from behind him. "It doesn't even matter if you get a power-up, Dobi." Naruto raised an eyebrow in surprise as Sasuke roared from behind him, his fist fast approaching. Wasn't he already out? "I will not let anyone stand in my way of exacting vengeance on my clan." Naruto quickly recovered from his shock and flew up with his meteor, ensuring that Sasuke did not hit anyone. The Uchiha's eyes widened at Naruto's speed, and what the Dobi did only added to the battle's tension and interest. "Where has he gone?" Looking at Neji, Sasuke asked loudly. "I'm not sure," he replied, scanning the arena with his Byakugan. He then heard something moving quickly in the air and turned to see where it was. His eyes widened as he noticed Naruto flying behind Sasuke, but most of all, he was taken aback by the blonde's levitation in the yellow light surrounding him. "Beware." When Neji screamed, Sasuke turned around and looked behind him. His brow furrowed as he saw Naruto rush towards him at breakneck speed. Unfortunately, his reactions were too slow to avoid Naruto's punch, which sent him flying back, but Neji caught him before he hit anything. Sasuke's fists clenched and touched the area on his cheeks where Naruto had just punched him. Meanwhile, the blonde landed safely on the ground as the yellow light from his meteor faded. Naruto versus Neji and Sasuke. What was that trick? Neji inquired, scanning Naruto's body with his jutsu as the bright light faded. "How do you manage to fly through the air? There isn't a shinobi in the world who can do that. Is it due to those eyes?" "You have a keen eye, Neji," Naruto mocked, prompting the Hyuga prodigy to scoff in response. "It makes no difference, Dobi. Right now, there are two of us and only one of you. Give up now and we won't have to hurt you. That's the best deal I can make you, Dobi." The crowd erupted in laughter as Naruto gave him the finger, and the Uchiha scowled at him. Naruto made an energy disc in his palm after his little gesture, motioning for them to bring it. "Come at me, you two. And go for it. Unless you're too afraid to see what else my eyes can do." He mumbled the last part, which neither Sasuke nor Neji missed. His two opponents were irritated by the situation. How dare this idiot challenge the two of them? He should be pleading for mercy on his knees. Sasuke and Neji exchanged glances before nodding at the same time. They didn't notice, however, that Naruto had just thrown the energy disc he had created towards them. After seeing what those things can do, Neji pushed Sasuke out of the way and jumped back to avoid the projectile. The Hyuga cocked his arm back and nodded to the smirking Uchiha. This would work again because it had previously worked. "Jikaki no Jutsu, Kaiten." Sasuke yelled, exhaling a massive ball of fire at his opponent. "Keish, Hake." Neji yelled, unleashing a torrent of chakra that boosted Sasuke's attack. "Ha! The same ruse will not work on me." Naruto spoke before his body was quickly enveloped in yellow light. "Raisei!" He yelled, leaping to his feet and charging towards the enhanced fireball his two opponents had just created. When Naruto flew through the massive fireball like it was nothing and was now heading towards them, Sasuke and Neji's eyes widened. That light surrounding him. It's working as a shield. Sasuke was going through another batch of hand seals when he felt Naruto kick him in the back, sending him crashing back down. Neji's eyes slowly widened before he felt a punch to the back of his head, sending him crashing into the arena as well. After about a minute, both Sasuke and Neji carefully stood up and stared at each other, trying to come up with a plan. Obviously, Naruto is untouchable right now due to his meteor, so they needed to come up with something if they wanted to defeat a simple idiot. Do you have any suggestions? Neji grumbled, dissatisfiedly looking at Uchiha. He didn't want to be helped, but if he wants to finish this battle as soon as possible, he'll have to collaborate with Sasuke. You're a taijutsu expert, right? When Sasuke inquired, the Hyuga nodded. Attack when he's open from behind. I'll take care of you. Neji scowled but did as he said. Naruto safely landed back on the ground as soon as Neji was out of his sight, the yellow light covering him slowly dissipating. Have you had enough yet? Naruto mocked him, and Sasuke scowled at him. Dobi, stop talking. Let's see how you do with this. He said as he examined some hand seals. Raika no Jutsu, Kaiten. He exhaled a dragon-shaped flame that charged straight at Naruto. Uchten. Dosei no Ringu. He yelled, forming two energy discs on his palms. When he heard those words, Sasuke immediately prepared himself, knowing what that jutsu was capable of. Naruto threw the discs at the flames as soon as they were within range, causing an explosion. A few moments later, Sasuke emerged from the smoke, his kunai ready in hand, but his smirk had turned into one of shock and surprise. Naruto had created another energy disc in his right hand and threw it at Sasuke, who was stunned and had no time to dodge out of the way. The technique sent Sasuke flying away before an explosion engulfed him, causing the audience to gasp in amazement at what Naruto had done. With that technique, he could have killed Uchiha. Neji jumped out from behind the tree where he was hiding and attempted a Jeiken strike to Naruto's neck, which would instantly paralyze his entire body, but Naruto backflipped out of the way, so nobody was home for Neji's attack. The yellow light that had been covering him while using meteor flared around him as he began levitating like an angel. Let's get this done quickly, my chakra is running low, and I'm going to use it all up soon, he thought as he wove a batch of hand seals. Hare, snake, bird, and tiger, Uchten, Tengoku no Kasen. He exclaimed, pointing his index finger at Neji, and a laser beam shot from the blonde's finger towards its target. The Hyuga was too slow to turn around, so when he saw it, he didn't have time to register what was going on, so he took the direct hit to the chest. Neji screamed in agony as his chest was crushed. The next thing he knew, he was crashing into the arena's walls, overcome by Naruto's new technique that he had demonstrated to them. Naruto landed back on the arena floor, breathing heavily, and began walking over to Neji to see if he was knocked out. Of course, he needed to ensure his defeat. He had to take precautions because he was about to run out of chakra and didn't want to go this far only to lose. But, halfway to Neji, Naruto heard a voice behind him and turned around to see who it was. I'm going to end this now, Naruto. Sasuke warned, his body covered in first-degree burns, ripping the bandages from his left arm as he performed some hand seals. His fangs were covering his face. He survived the earlier explosion with only minor injuries. People in the audience began cheering for their favorite shinobi to win the match. Dobi, prepare to meet your end. I don't care if you have new eyes. Ox, rabbit, monkey, dragon, rat, bird, ox, snake, dog, tiger, monkey. He placed his hand down with his right arm clutching his other arm, channeling chakra into it. Lightning began to form on his hand, and it sounded like 1,000 birds chirping. Sasuke scowled and stared at his opponent, who maintained an emotionless expression. Sasuke then rushed towards the blonde with the same lightning-fast speed as Lee. Naruto. Sasuke roared in rage, reaching the blonde in a matter of seconds as he applied his technique. Chidori! He screamed, as Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. As he looked into Naruto's eyes, Sasuke smiled evilly. Finally. Ha. Do you notice, Dobi? As I previously stated, you can never defeat a Uchiha. You had no chance from the start. That's all for. The Naruto in front of him then poofed into smoke, revealing that it had all along been a clone. There were clearly audible gasps throughout the arena. Everyone assumed that Sasuke had Naruto exactly where he wanted him. When Uchiha hit Naruto with his Chidori, even the two cages watching thought the match was over. He cursed himself, shit. I squandered that on a useless clone. Damn it. Why can't I use that technique for more than two? He was about to continue when Naruto appeared in front of him. Sasuke exclaimed, but before he could respond, Naruto's fist collided with his left cheek. The Uchiha winced in pain, then decided to keep the momentum going by sweeping Naruto's legs. Because the blonde shinobi was caught off guard, he lost his balance. When he saw Sasuke gripping his own weapon and standing tall by his head, he fell to the ground, suddenly disarmed of his kunai. Naruto was able to avoid the Uchiha's kunai by turning his head to the other side. He raised his two legs and kicked his opponent in the chin, causing him to stumble back as the blonde quickly rose to his feet. After finishing the proper hand signs, Sasuke prepared for another technique when Naruto turned around. Jikaki no Jutsu, Kaiten. He breathed out a continuous stream of fire towards Naruto, which was unlike his usual fireballs. When Naruto saw the impending danger, he immediately performed his own set of hand seals. Dog, horse, rat, boar, bird, Uchten, Sinaru Bakuf. He yelled as energy beams began to charge up on his arms. With a smirk on his face, he charged towards the stream of fire. At the audience. What does he think he's doing? Screamed Sakura, clutching the metal railings even more tightly. He's going to get killed. Even though she still liked Sasuke, she couldn't help but worry about Naruto's well-being. Wow, Naruto sure is fearless, isn't he? Kiba was speechless at what the blonde was attempting. Yep, Choji replied, taking another handful of potato chips and stuffing them into his mouth. I honestly have no idea what he'll do every time. Shikamaru muttered, unpredictable. And troublesome. You can do it, Sasuke-kun. Ino exclaimed. Fight until the bitter end. I really hope he gets killed. Kankuro cracked a joke, only to be silenced by Temari's smack to the head. In the arena. Just as the flames were about to collide, Naruto threw the energy beams on his arms at the fire, gradually destroying it energy beam by energy beam. The audience was left with their mouths agape at what Naruto was doing. I mean, is there anything this kid can't do? He previously demonstrated his ability to fly, and now he can stop a fire jutsu with his own jutsu while running against it? Sasuke's eyes widened as he saw Naruto unharmed by his technique after Naruto destroyed the last of the flames with a final energy beam. He took out his kunai and attempted to attack Naruto's legs, but Naruto kicked the weapon away from him, and then proceeded to blast the Uchiha away with yet another energy beam from his arm. Damn. It, Sasuke exclaimed between pants. In frustration at not being able to finish even a simple idiot, he punched the ground. How can his jutsus be stronger than mine? So what if he has new eyes? They're weak. He exclaimed as he heard Naruto's voice from the opposite side of the arena. Now might be a good time to demonstrate a new technique, said Naruto, allowing his hands to be engulfed in blue flames. Uchten, Moru Susei. He yelled, charging at the panting Uchiha. Sasuke maintained a determined expression and threw all of his remaining shuriken at Naruto. But as soon as the blue flames got close, they all melted. Sasuke's face was devoid of expression as he witnessed this. He only had a blank expression on his face as he watched Naruto get dangerously close to him. He exhaled deeply and sighed. He should have anticipated this. What occurred? Sasuke questioned himself. I trained myself to the limit, but I can't beat a simple idiot. And I have a teammate, no less. He looked up at the blonde and saw that his left fist was inches away from slamming into his face. Naruto, how did you get so strong? I can tell your strength isn't solely derived from your eyes, he muttered weakly as the blonde's fist brushed against his left cheek. Yeah, my strength does not grow solely from my eyes, Naruto declared, striking Sasuke with a right hook and then kicking him in the gut. My strength comes from the people around me, he exclaimed, turning around and performing a horse kick that made Sasuke look up. I grow stronger because of the people I care about, he exclaimed, followed by a right uppercut that launched his opponent into the air, with Naruto following. They give me the strength to go on, even when I want to give up. He flipped in the air and delivered a powerful axe kick that knocked the Uchiha back into the arena, accompanied by a slight shaking of the ground. At the audience. Whoa. I'm not sure if he'll make it. Kiba was impressed by Naruto's performance. Naruto is incredible. I'm glad I didn't pick a fight with him at the time. That idiot is going to kill him. Concerned for Sasuke, Ino screeched. Go for it, Naruto, yelled out Choji, disregarding the blonde bimbo beside him. With a shocked expression, Haku turned to her father figure. That's the same attack chain Naruto used on me when we fought. Zabuza looked at her with a "Are you serious?" expression on her face and nodded. It's a good thing you're still alive. Because I don't think that brat is going to hold back anytime soon. Be prepared for what is about to happen. He trailed off, his attention focused on the ongoing battle. Yosh. I'm not losing that bet right now. We'll be rich after this. He continued, his voice evil. What a combination of strikes. Gaia exclaimed as he scrutinized Naruto's attacks. After all, he was a taijutsu expert. It's similar to Lee's combo, but with some differences. He turned to look at Kakashi, who was standing nearby. Did you teach that kid the taijutsu combo he's doing, Kakashi? Maybe you could show me some of that. Kakashi shook his head no before he could finish his sentence. Actually, Naruto came up with it, he explained, his face flushed. To be honest, I was the student in that situation because I was eager to learn. Can you, at the very least, tell me what scrolls he's been looking at? He must have learned all of those basic moves from a normal scroll before combining them into one. It's not my place to tell, Guy, he continued. Who can say? Maybe Naruto will inform us all about certain things we missed after this battle, and then he'll tell us all about his powers. Ouch, Asuma said, wincing slightly. Man, I just hope that didn't kill him, he remarked. Don't you think that Uzumaki kid is going too far? He asked his wife, who shrugged her shoulders. In the arena. Even though he was barely able, Sasuke struggled to get to his feet. His face had been bruised, and he had minor burns all over his body. When he finally got to his feet, he was panting and couldn't see anything. But then he heard someone approaching him. Naruto continued to speak while the blue flames on his arms remained ablaze. Maybe you should give it a shot. Fight for the people you care about rather than for vengeance. He then used his meteor to quickly reach the Uchiha. I'm hoping you'll change, Teme. Sasuke did not respond, instead closing his eyes. Feel the power of the fallen stars, exclaimed the blonde, preparing his flame-enhanced right arm. Hoshi Uranai. He yelled before unleashing a right straight punch that burned Sasuke's shirt on impact and sent him flying towards the arena's walls, defeated for good. Naruto walked over to his best friend, Sasuke, and noticed that he was barely conscious. "Do you have that, buddy? Just be more open to others, and you'll be as strong as I am." He gave a thumbs up and flashed his trademark grin. Sasuke gave a small smile before finally surrendering to the sweet unconsciousness. In the cage box. While the majority of the audience booed Naruto for defeating the last Uchiha, the Kazekage was having difficult thoughts of his own. Orochimaru was taken aback by what had occurred. Sasuke Uchiha has just fallen into the hands of an inexperienced brat. "I'm disappointed that I didn't get to see Sasuke Sharingan." "Kuns," he grumbled. "Oh well, I think I can make use of this. Perhaps this loss will aid Sasuke quest Kuns for power," he thought evilly. In the meantime, he said to Naruto, "Let's see what else those brats' eyes can do." Extraordinary, Hiruzen thought as he watched his pseudo-grandson fight skillfully, combining two of his Uchtengan's jutsus. That's a good strategy. Also, good thinking, Naruto. Displaying more of your abilities would almost certainly increase the lust of a certain individual here as well. Now let us see how he handles the Hyuga clan's so-called prodigy. In the arena, Neji, who had only just gotten to his feet, witnessed what happened and saw it as another opportunity. Damn it, he's already got the Uchiha, he thought as he charged at Naruto with murderous intent. I need to end this now because who knows what else he has up his sleeve. Naruto immediately turned around as he was about to attack, and Neji came to a halt before taking a few steps back in fear. Naruto smirked and decided to scare him even more by approaching him slowly. But his eyes widened and he felt a jolt of pain in the two, bringing his hands up to cover them. Naruto screamed in agony and collapsed to his knees as his Uchtengan deactivated. Damn it, he mentally cursed. Did I leave it on for too long? I thought I had trained my eyes for the entire month. What should I do now? Meanwhile, Neji was taken aback. He was surprised to see Naruto in pain. Fortunately, he realized what was going on when he noticed the blonde covering his eyes. His eyes went out. This is my chance to put an end to it. I need to act quickly. He then struck Naruto 3 times in quick succession, one to his right arm, one to his left leg, and one to his chest. Naruto screamed in agony the entire time as his chakra points closed. Neji then delivered a powerful kick to the gut, sending Naruto flying back. The bottle's tide has now completely changed in less than 5 moves. While Sasuke was down, it took its toll on Naruto. The blonde was struggling to get back on his feet when he heard something from behind him that he didn't want to hear right now. You are vulnerable to divination. Naruto turned around, a fearful expression on his face, and was met with Neji's smirking face as he seized the opportunity to finally end the fight. Nishish, said the Hyuga, closing 2 chakra points on Naruto's chakra network. Yan Sho. Hachi Shish. Jiroku Shish. San Ni Shish. Hake Rokujian Shish. He exclaimed, finishing all 64 strikes that pushed Naruto back a few meters while remaining on a knee. His jacket appeared to be about to wear and tear at any moment. At the audience. As Naruto was launched across the arena, the audience erupted in a mix of boos, applause, and confusion. Of course, the cheers were the loudest. Some people didn't get it right away. The blonde shinobi had taken out the last Uchiha and had the Hyuga in a precarious position, but he was now struggling to stand up. Others were relieved that their money had not been wasted on the Hyuga prodigy and the Uchiha. The rest of the spectators were irritated when the blonde stopped fighting. The reactions of the rookie 12 were mixed. Sakura's thoughts were at a crossroads. On the one hand, there was her crush Sasuke. If Naruto beat Neji, Sasuke would lose as well, but if Naruto lost, it didn't sit well with her because she now considered him a very valuable friend. Ino was wearing a frown. For a brief moment, she believed Naruto could win. Why was he struggling against Neji after defeating Sasuke? Damn Naruto, get up! Kiba barked, and Akamaru followed suit. Yeah, Naruto, get up! Exclaimed Choji, who was also cheering for Naruto. My eternal rival, you can do it! Get off your feet! Lee exclaimed, tears streaming down the sides of his cheeks. I wonder how Naruto would react in this situation. Wondered Kakashi. He never expected Naruto to be hit for the duration of the match once he began using his celestial abilities, but he was caught this time. His eyes still don't seem to be able to hold out for very long. Meanwhile, Team 9's Tenten was beaming. Almost anyone could tell she has a crush on her teammate, Neji Hyuga. Yes, Neji did it. She exclaimed happily in her head before looking at Naruto with concern. I apologize, Naruto. When the 64 palms hit their opponent, it's game over. But, on the bright side, you did test him to his limits, and you should be proud of that. In the arena, the blonde Uzumaki clutched his chest, clearly in bad shape at the moment. In fact, it was only because of Kurama that he survived Neji's onslaught. Any other opponent would have been forced to close all of their tenketsus. He bowed forward and spat some blood on the ground, demonstrating how lethal Gentle Fist can be. Damn, this isn't good, he thought to himself. Hello, Kurama? Do you think you might be able to give me some chakra? I don't think I can continue the match without access to my chakra. I feel like I won't be able to use it for an hour or so. The fox shook his head no inside his head, and Naruto's eyes widened. I won't be able to assist you this time, Kit. You must fight this battle on your own, he stated this. Are you insane? I'm going down as soon as Neji touches me again. I didn't feel like myself before. Before Neji's attack, I still felt like I could fight. Find a way, he said sharply, causing Naruto to step back slightly. You know yourself better than anyone else, don't you? If that's the case, you should have no trouble winning this. Or maybe you just forgot what else your eyes can do. Naruto's conversation with the fox was cut short when he heard Neji approaching. However, unlike previously, the Hyuga himself was not completely well. He wasn't standing straight, and the way he walked indicated that he was about to collapse. His body was covered in bruises and scrapes as a result of Naruto's earlier brutal beating. As he limped towards Naruto, Neji began to laugh maniacally. Did you really believe that a loser like you could defeat me, a Hyuga? Did you? I told you over and over that your destiny is to be a loser. He growled, finally stopping moving when he reached Naruto. He took a deep breath and deactivated his Byakugan before continuing to speak. But because you didn't listen, you still lost. Uzumaki, your eyes are weak. I thought they were extraordinary, with amazing abilities, but they just happened to fall into the wrong hands. Perhaps if I was fated to have those eyes, I could hone them to their full potential, unlike a loser like you. Hinata-sama should have chosen someone better than you. Oh well, she's a loser, just like you. Naruto's fists clenched in rage as he heard Neji's insult directed at Hinata, and the prodigy cocked his arm back, intending to end the match for good. With a smirk, he turned to face Genma. Proctor, I'm going to end this, he said, and Genma just snickered. You made a bad decision by continuing the match, Uzumaki. He then executed his Jeiken strike. You should have given up when you had the opportunity. Naruto's head snapped up so quickly that Neji didn't even notice him. When the blonde grabbed Neji's attacking arm by the wrist, the Hyuga realized what was going on. Before he could finish his sentence, he heard Naruto's voice. Rainmaker. He yelled, dragging Neji in for the Rainmaker lariat. Neji screamed in agony as Naruto's arm struck his throat, and both of them collapsed on the ground, exhausted. At the audience, the crowd devolved into chaos once more. Some were stunned by what had just happened, Others were sweating as all of the money bet was at stake once more, and the rest of the audience erupted in applause at seeing the celestial shinobi in action once more. It's all right. Kiba roared in delight, with Akamaru barking angrily on top of him. You're my teammate. Sakura sobbed, her earlier doubts dispelled by Neji's ridiculous tirade. Cha kick his ass for messing with Hinata. Roared her inner self. Well, I guess it's about time. Sakura looked perplexed as Ino smirked and crossed her arms. What? Oh come on, forehead, I like Sasuke-kun, but I really hope that idiot wins. I never liked that Hyuga in the first place, she said, and Sakura smiled back, showing her support for her friend. In awe, Kakashi whistled. Wow. What a counter, he thought, looking around at the large crowd waiting in anticipation. It appears that move silenced them. Naruto, keep going. He smiled from beneath his mask. And you'll soon be changing their minds about you. What a move by young Naruto. Guy exclaimed, observing the match more closely because he could tell the two combatants were about to use taijutsu. That lariat is lethal. I'm curious where he learned it. That could be classified as a B or a rank jutsu. Would you like to learn that technique from him, Lee? He inquired of his student. Yes, Naruto is the most youthful, and that was a great technique. I'll do my own when I get to fight again. Lee spoke in his usual tone. When he saw Naruto still fighting, Zabuza began to sink in fear on his own seat. Haku gave him a worried look. Is there something wrong, Sama? She inquired. Remind me not to piss off that brat again, he said in a slightly pitched voice, demonstrating his fear of Naruto and causing Haku to sweat once more. Tenten's mouth gaped open in surprise. How did Naruto move or perform a technique? His chakras should have been closed. Please, Neji, get up. Looks like your student's boyfriend still has some guts, Asuma smirked to his wife. Damn, that kid is unpredictable. I'm curious what he'll do next. He observed, while Kurenai simply smiled and watched. In the cage box. Look at this brat. He's going to be more trouble than I anticipated, Orochimaru's observation as he saw both genin fall to the ground. This reminds me of Jiraiya. Never knows when to give up. He crossed his arms and cursed his teammate silently. On the bright side, the longer this match lasts, the more I'll get to see of his abilities. He said evilly. Yes, Naruto Uzumaki, keep impressing me. And I'm thinking about not killing you. This fight is far from over. The third thought was that he was proud that his pseudo-grandson didn't let his temporary weakness hold him back. What a performance he gave today. In the arena. Neji was wide awake for the entire 1 minute they were on the ground, with shock clearly visible on his face. He couldn't believe Naruto could still move so quickly after being hit with the most powerful jutsu in his arsenal. Who in the world is this guy? Neji pondered this as he coughed slightly and gazed up at the sky. His chakra points were closed. How did he use ninjutsu? Neji took a deep breath and turned to face Naruto, ready to speak. How did you do that? He demanded angrily between breaths. Your chakra points were closed. But you still managed a ninjutsu. He then saw Naruto slowly rise to his feet, his hair covering the majority of his eyes. Neji noticed Naruto still clutching his wrist as he felt himself slowly rising to his feet. Before attempting to pry his arm free from the blonde's grasp, the Hyuga widened his eyes in fear of what Naruto could do to him. Give me away. Neji roared before realizing he was finally on his feet. Naruto clenched his right fist once more, small raindrops forming on his arm. He then proceeded to attack again with the Rainmaker in less than 5 seconds, but before he could even hit his opponent, Neji used his remaining strength to kick Naruto's right arm away, preventing the attack. While the Hyuga may have stopped the attack, he noticed Naruto still had a firm grip on his wrist. His eyes widened in fear once more before bringing his foot up to kick Naruto in the head. He then began a relentless assault on the blonde in an attempt to pry her away from his grasp. "Let go of my arm," he yelled, each punctuation replaced with a kick to Naruto's head or face. After a minute of fighting back with all his might, Neji came to a halt to catch his breath. "I did it, now I need to." Before he could finish his thought, he heard Naruto roar like a wild animal. When he saw Naruto still clinging to his arm the entire time, Neji's eyes widened, and before he could react further, he was hit by the Rainmaker, causing him to fall to the ground again, but the blonde was able to stay on his feet. When they saw Naruto's face, there were gasps and murmurs of concern from the audience. Due to all of Neji's kicks, his face was all ganged up and bruised, and a trickle of blood was flowing from the side of his mouth. Meanwhile, an imposter in the area was impressed with his endurance for taking that much damage and still standing. Naruto, panting, spat blood near Neji's head and scowled at the fallen Hyuga. "That was for Hinata," he said, his voice slightly menacing, for the first time in minutes. Neji's eyes widened as he heard his words, before he was pulled back up to his feet. Unfortunately for him, the prodigy was forced to rely on Naruto for assistance. Now that they were both standing again, Naruto grabbed Neji's shoulder and clenched his fist in preparation for another attack. "This is for the girl you messed with in the preliminary round," exclaimed the blonde, recalling the Hyuga prodigy's fight from back then before drawing Neji in for another devastating Rainmaker. Naruto was able to stay on his feet once more, while Neji's vision became blurry. The blonde Uzumaki felt the majority of his facial wounds heal slowly, and he thanked Kurama inwardly. Meanwhile, Neji was almost out cold when he felt himself being forced back to his feet. However, due to exhaustion and low chakra levels, he could barely see Naruto at the moment. "And this one is for me," he screamed, pulling Neji in for one last Rainmaker before his eyes widened as he saw the Hyuga activate his Byakugan. During the process, Neji ducked to avoid his attack before attacking the blonde's head with a knee strike, but Naruto still held onto his opponent's wrist. Neji channeled some of his remaining chakra into his left arm in retaliation and possible humiliation before pulling Naruto towards himself in an attempt to use the same Rainmaker against him. To avoid it, the blonde ducked and temporarily let go of Neji's wrist. "Yes!" Neji yelled triumphantly, finally free of Naruto's clutches. He turned around with a confident grin on his face. "Now I can." What happened next proved that Neji had overexcited himself. Naruto did a backflip after avoiding the prodigy's possible Rainmaker earlier, and he managed to hit Neji in the eyes with his right foot, and the Hyuga covered them in pain. Naruto turned around and grabbed Neji's arm, pulling him in for another attempt at his Rainmaker, but the Hyuga ducked before being hit. Neji attempted to humiliate Naruto once more by performing the same move on him, but the blonde Uzumaki also ducked. Instead of holding Neji's wrist, Naruto walked behind him and wrapped his arms around the Hyuga, as if hugging him from behind. Naruto then lifted Neji and performed a suplex on him before slamming him to the ground, neck first, making some in the audience shiver in fear. Naruto brought the two of them to their feet, maintaining a determined look and his grip on Neji's waist while panting heavily in exhaustion, before switching his grip from the Hyuga's waist to his wrist. After that, the blonde-haired boy pushed Neji around so he could face him, before pulling him in for the final Rainmaker that would hopefully put an end to things. Rainmaker. Naruto's jutsu struck home, and Neji, who was completely exhausted and depleted of chakra, took the attack like a ragdoll, flipping in the air once as he was hit before landing defeated on his face and stomach. Neji then forced himself to open his eyes out of sheer willpower. But this time, he knew he didn't want to fight any longer. But there was one question he needed Naruto to answer. And this was in reference to one of the earlier events. He noticed Naruto standing by his feet, struggling to stay upright. Naruto. He mumbled, using the blonde's name for the first time. Naruto turned around with a raised eyebrow, perplexed as to why Neji would address him by his given name. Why did you continue fighting earlier? You couldn't have had the strength to fight back after I hit you with the 64 palms, but you did. Just respond right now. Your fate had previously been determined by me, but you continued to deny it. Why? He inquired. You can say whatever you want, Neji, but my answer will not change. He responded. I won't mind repeating myself 100 times. We make our own decisions, which result in different outcomes and, as a result, different fates. Why do you continue to deny it? Neji's pupils dilated. His question was simply redirected to him. I'm not forcing you to change. I'm simply asking you to stop messing with your own mind. I can tell something is pushing you to believe in this fate nonsense, so just don't. I know you're capable. And when the time comes, when I become Hokage, I'll assist the Hyuga clan with their issues so that your attitude does not spread to other members. He gave a thumbs up and flashed his trademark grin. It's true. Before his vision became blurry once more, Neji came to a realization. I'll look forward to that, Uzumaki Naruto. He thought as his eyes closed and he fell asleep. Genma smiled and cleared his throat as he saw Neji finally defeated. Winner of the match, Naruto Uzumaki. He exclaimed, to a mixed reaction from the audience. Naruto collapsed to his knees and took his time regaining his breath after hearing what Genma had just said. It was a hard-fought battle for him, and he felt challenged for the first time. Well done, Kit, the Kyuubi said to himself. That was a fantastic battle, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. You have such a strong grip on the two of them. I can't wait to see how the villagers react when they see you every day after this. He laughed. Ah, thanks, Softy, he said, smiling at his friend. I didn't realize you were rooting for me to win, that makes me so happy, he teased, causing the fox to groan in annoyance. Naruto's body was suddenly covered in yellow light as he flew to the stands in an instant. When he arrived, he noticed that everyone was staring at him, except for Kakashi. Is there something on my face? He inquired, breaking the spell. Is that all you've got to say after what you did down there? Ino shrieked, prompting the majority of them to cover their ears. In response, Naruto simply shrugged. I kept my abilities hidden for a reason, and now that you know, what's the big deal? Big deal? She asked. How can you say that when you have completely new eyes in the ninja world and can do crazy things with them? Naruto cocked his brow. So what? Despite the fact that I have completely different eyes than anyone else here, it took me 6 years to realize I had these abilities. And it only took me a few months of hard work to get here. And, besides, my powers can't be active all the time. Yeah, but, before she could finish, Naruto raised his hand to silence her. Look, Ino, I'll answer all of your questions later. Okay? This applies to everyone. In a sweet voice, he inquired. Oh okay, she replied, a small flush on her cheeks. Naruto smiled as he approached Sakura, who seemed eager to speak with him. Good job, Naruto? She exclaimed, raising her hand for a high five, which Naruto gladly accepted. You're not mad at me for beating up Sasuke? He asked, raising an eyebrow at her current demeanor. Oh, don't worry, you just taught him a lesson. She laughed. Because once he gets here, I'll teach him a lesson about hurting girls. She continued as her demonic aura flared off her body, making Naruto sweat. Man, I'm not sure what to expect from her. The annoying fangirl or the scary sister? He pondered before returning his attention to reality. Alright, Sakura. Thank you for your help, he said as he walked over to Kiba. Kiba? Could you please tell me where Hinata is? I haven't seen her, he inquired. I'm still at the infirmary, Kiba said solemnly. She did not fare well in that, Naruto. You should go see her. I'm sure she'll be overjoyed to see you and hear you won. Actually, I heard she might be discharged soon, Shino said, joining the conversation. And congratulations, Naruto, on your victory. Thank you, guys. Hinata would be overjoyed if you were there for her right now. Naruto continued on his way, patting them both on the shoulder. But before he could truly leave the area, he noticed Zabuza nearby, counting his money, with Haku beside him, smiling warmly. What? He inquired, his gaze drawn to both of them. Haku took a step forward and hugged Naruto tightly. Naruto, congratulations. I'm overjoyed for you, she exclaimed. Naruto returned her affectionate embrace. Many thanks, Haku. Zabuza took a step forward and smirked at Naruto. Brother, keep up the good work. I've already made so much money with you, he explained. Were the odds really that stacked against me? Naruto inquired, his face flushed. 38-1, baby. Zabuza then screamed in a childish voice, causing Naruto's face to drop. Everyone wanted Hyuga and Uchiha to win. He continued. I also now understand how you beat Haku when you two fought, brat. Naruto shook his head. Anyway, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? My pleasure, brat. Let's celebrate your victory, he said, smiling. Ichiraku ramen, says one. Naruto responded almost instantly. Ichiraku ramen, please, said Zabuza, pulling a trumpet and a bass drum from nowhere and starting playing both instruments like in a marching band, making everyone in the room sweat. Naruto simply shook his head and chuckled for a few moments before exiting the area, completely unaware of the icy cold stare that a certain redhead was giving him. At Kage's box. Amazing, thought Orochimaru. To conceive a jutsu capable of controlling objects from outside this world. Yes, Uzumaki Naruto, you have impressed me. I can't afford to kill you anymore, brat. Just keep on impressing me. I'll be able to reach the ends of the universe with that Uchtengan of yours, he thought evilly. Naruto, congratulations. Hiruzen pondered. I'm delighted for you, my boy. You've really grown in strength. In the arena. Please proceed to the arena. Temari of the Sand, Sakura Haruno, Kiba Inuzuka, and Shino Aburame. Genma made the announcement. All of the shinobi mentioned jumped to their respective teammates' side of the battlefield. Let's get started, Shino, Kiba exclaimed, followed by Akamaru's barking. Shino responded with a grunt. This isn't going to make us friends, Leaf Girl, Temari smirked as she looked down at her opponents. In response, Sakura scoffed. Are all of the fighters prepared? When Genma asked, all four genins nodded. Hajime. Shino and Kiba versus Sakura and Temari. Nobody dared to budge an inch. Yet. There was no movement for the first few seconds. Temari clutched her massive fan, but she didn't pull it out yet. Kiba was kneeling on the ground, his teeth bared, with Akamaru sitting beside him. Shino hid his mouth behind his high-collared jacket, his hands on the pockets. Sakura began jumping backwards near the wall, much to everyone's surprise but not the shinobi's, as her enemies raised an eyebrow at her. Temari was also looking back with a curious expression. Pinkett looked to the left and right sides of the room before hurling two kunais at them. The kunais were carrying a small pouch by its handle through the hole, and who knows what was inside. She turned her attention to Kiba and Shino after the two weapons became stuck on the wall. In the stands. Naruto returned to the stands after visiting Hinata in the hospital. He wished he could have stayed by her side a little longer, but he needed to see if Sakura's training with Haku had paid off. Ino was the first person to notice him. She approached Naruto and gave him a high five, which the blonde accepted. "How was Hinata?" Ino inquired, concerned. "How is she doing?" "Yeah, she's fine," Naruto replied. The burns she received were not dangerous, and the doctor said she'd be discharged in an hour or two. "What exactly did you do over there?" Naruto began to recall what had happened in the infirmary with Hinata. Naruto's life may have been a little different. "I won the match, Hinata," he exclaimed triumphantly. "I did it for you, you understand." Hinata's eyes widened. "I couldn't let them get away with what they did to you. I also kicked Neji in the shins for you." She gave him a warm smile. "Naruto, that's so sweet of you. Thank you very much. This is one of the many reasons I adore you." He scratched the back of his neck. "Well, it was nothing." Hinata's voice cut him off before he could finish. "I believe you deserve a reward, Naruto-kun," she said seductively, causing Naruto's eyes to widen. "What?" he asked, trying to sound innocent while blushing furiously, before being pulled down by the arm and straddling Hinata by her hips. So began yet another intense makeout session. Naruto's cheeks began to flush as he recalled the scene at the infirmary, but he was brought back to reality when Ino snapped her fingers in front of Naruto's face. "Hey, I was wondering what happened to you at the hospital. You have yet to respond." "Oh, there was nothing," Naruto yelled. "I just told Hinata I won the match, and she congratulated me, and then I came back." He spoke quickly, causing Ino to sweat. "Okay? Anyway, Forehead's match with Hinata's teammates has already begun, but they haven't begun fighting yet. Why don't you tell us about your eyes while we're looking at them? You mentioned earlier that you'd explain more about your abilities after visiting Hinata." Naruto shook his head. "Alright, let's go." They began to walk towards the metal railings, from which they could see the fight below. As a result, much to their delight, he told them more about his Uchtengan and its abilities. Mostly because Naruto's jutsu and powers are unique. Of course, Naruto stopped himself before he could say anything about Kurama or the Sage of the Six Paths. In the arena, Sakura made some hand gestures before slamming both of her palms on the ground. "Doden. Iwa Toge Fushido no Jutsu," she yelled as dozens of 6-inch spikes formed around her. Tamari quickly realized what Sakura was doing and jumped high in the air to avoid the Pinkette's attack. "Think you can take her out, Shino?" Kiba asked, leaping into the air alongside his teammate, who nodded. They channeled their chakra into their feet before landing on the very sharp tips of the spikes that the Pinkette had made, so they wouldn't feel any pain and could run over the spikes without harm. "Alright, I'll let you." He was cut off in his words when he noticed a powerful torrent of air heading towards them, but Shino had already blocked it with a wall made of his insects. "Go after Sakura," Shino instructed in his usual tone. "I'll take care of this." Kiba immediately nodded and turned his gaze to Sakura, who wore an emotionless expression on her face. Kiba began to laugh as if he were a child watching a funny movie scene. Akamaru stared at him, perplexed, until Kiba decided to stop laughing after about a minute. His dog barked 4 times, to which the Inuzuka shrugged. "Sorry, Akamaru," he apologized to his friend. "It's just that I'm up against one of the most annoying classmates I've ever had in the academy." He turned to face Sakura. "Sakura, no offense. However, everyone could agree with what I'm saying. I'm not even sure if you trained for this fight or if you were too preoccupied with being a fangirl. But I'll tell you what," he closed his eyes and raised his arms in defeat, like a criminal. "I'll give you one free blow. Let's see how tough you've gotten." Nothing happened for a few seconds. "Sakura, just one blow." "Take it or leave it," he screamed in agony as he felt his nose being crushed. Sakura stood a few feet in front of him, her fist clenched tightly, when his eyes opened. Kiba brought his hand up to his face, and the area around his nose felt wet as soon as he touched it. He then examined his own fingers, only to find blood. He realized something. Sakura Haruno recently fractured his nose. The majority of the people shivered in fear as a result of what had occurred. Most of the genin in the stands felt Sakura's punch, so they held their noses unconsciously out of fear. Meanwhile, Kiba quickly took a small scarf from his pocket and wrapped it around his face to stop the bleeding. He then looked at Sakura and gave her a thumbs up. "What a brilliant strategy. I won't be able to smell you anymore as a result of what you did," he said as Sakura charged at him once more. "So I'd better step up my game. Jutsu Shikyaku." As Akamaru barked 3 times, he said. As Sakura approached, Kiba jumped to a location where there were no earthen spikes, otherwise he wouldn't be able to do this. He snarled, his teeth baring, and dropped to his 4 limbs like a dog. The pinkette came to a halt on one of her spikes and took her time observing her opponent. It was now Kiba's turn to go on the offensive, charging at Sakura with increased speed. The pinkette was clearly outmatched by Kiba's speed at the moment, but she wasn't the target. He was tearing through the spikes Sakura had made earlier, making sure it wouldn't be difficult to track her down later. She jumped to the arena's walls, ran around it, and threw a swarm of shuriken at Kiba. With his enhanced hearing, the Inuzuka was able to avoid the incoming attack while investigating its origin. Meanwhile, Sakura had completed her circling of her opponent, jumping off the walls and into the earthen spikes to soften her landing. She started walking towards Kiba through the spikes, and when she reached the last one, she jumped off with all her might, cocking her fist in the air as she stared at Kiba's dog-like figure. "Chaw!" she yelled, intending to end the fight with a single blow. Kiba, unfortunately, managed to turn around with a feral expression. He jumped up and slashed the pinkette with his long claws, grabbing her left arm and slitting 3 long slits in her dress near her stomach. Sakura screamed in agony as her left arm took the punishment. As a result, she couldn't control her landing and crashed to the ground, rolling a few times before coming to a stop on her stomach. She sat up immediately, clutching the scratch wound on her left arm to stop the bleeding, and saw Kiba charging at her with great speed. With her free arm, she quickly drew 2 explosive tags from her right pocket and threw them at her opponent. The impact caused a small explosion, which threw Kiba back and created smoke, which obscured Sakura behind it. She took a roll of bandage from her pouch and began wrapping it around the wound on her left arm, removing the remaining part with her teeth. She then hovered her right hand over it, and a green light began to glow on her hand. Flashback. Haku dodged Sakura's incoming punch once more, but decided not to counter it because the pinkette was already tired. "That's enough for this session," she exclaimed, and Sakura immediately came to a halt and sat down on the ground to catch her breath. Haku walked away from her and went to their bags to retrieve the water jugs they had brought for today's training session. She then threw Sakura's jug at her, which the pinkette managed to catch. As she made her way back, the former mercenary contemplated her student's figure. Sakura became aware of this and decided to inquire. "Is there something wrong, Haku-sensei?" she asked as she sipped her water again. "Sakura, how about I teach you a little bit of medical ninjutsu?" she said, crossing her legs in front of the pinkette. "I know it's not my forte, but I could teach you the fundamentals so that when the time comes, you can find another teacher who can teach you more advanced techniques." "Ninjutsu for medical purposes?" Haku's pupils constricted. "Don't tell me you have no idea what that is." Pinkette immediately shook her head. "No way, sensei. I understand, but... Are you serious? But why should I? Why can't Naruto or Sasuke-kun learn? They are far more powerful than I am. Naruto and Sasuke are the more aggressive types. Their abilities make them suitable for the front lines, as they were the ones to fight me, not you," during your mission in the Land of Waves. In the meantime, you are assisting Sakura, the medical ninja. She paused to observe Sakura's reaction. The pinkette appeared depressed after hearing she was only there for support, so the ice user continued. But that doesn't mean you're useless on the battlefield. The medical ninja is considered the team's heart, and when he or she dies or is incapacitated, the entire team collapses because no one else can heal future injuries and wounds. Sure, anyone can learn the basics, but it is in the nature of the medic nin to treat injuries, no matter how dangerous the situation. That is the medic role nins in the team. Do you understand now? After Haku's explanation, Sakura was left with her mouth agape. She was intrigued because there was so much she didn't know about being a medical ninja. She understands that Naruto and Sasuke are far superior to her in terms of strength and power on the battlefield, but that doesn't mean she can't be useful as well. So she devised her solution. She gave a determined nod. Hello, Sensei. Flashback concludes. During her time with Haku, the pinkette not only learned about her nature transformation, but she also learned about medical ninjutsu and how to perform it. As a beginner, she could only use it after the wound was bandaged and only on herself. But she knew she had to work hard and train hard to perfect this new skill in order to catch up to her two teammates. As she continued to heal herself, she noticed that the pain in her arm gradually faded. Kiba lunged towards her from the other side of the smoke just as she was about to finish, causing her eyes to widen. His claws were about to rip through her, so she raised her foot and kicked him away before she was hurt. After that, she had finally healed the wound on her arm, so she removed the bandages, revealing her left arm as good as new, while Kiba stared at her, his mouth agape, stunned that Sakura had managed to heal the wound he had inflicted on her earlier. Pinkette used this as an opportunity to flee and devise a quick plan. Kiba snapped out of his trance when he saw her flee. "Hey, come back here!" he exclaimed, chasing Sakura down. After putting some distance between herself and Kiba, the pinkette looked behind her to see if he was still there, and she was correct. She came to a halt and quickly went through some hand seals. "Doden! Doriheki!" she screamed, causing an earthen wall to appear in front of her. She made sure to add extra chakra to it, making the wall stronger than usual. The Inuzuka did not go around it, as she had planned, but instead tried to tear his way through it. "Hello there, Akamaru. Please assist me." From the other side, she heard him say. "Jin Bunshin." Sakura had no idea, but Akamaru had transformed into Kiba himself and was assisting his partner in destroying the earthen wall. The pinkette took a few steps back and went through another batch of hand seals. "This is my opportunity to show everyone how strong I am now. Especially to Naruto and Sasuke-kun," she thought, taking a quick glance at the stands before returning her attention to the fight. "Doden! Marushi Tny!" she exclaimed, punching the ground in front of her before grabbing a massive chunk of rock and lifting it with one arm. The audience reacted with a mix of gasps and cheers. "As soon as they get through, I have one shot at this," she determined. "We got you now," exclaimed Kiba as he and Akamaru worked together to demolish Sakura's wall. They were surprised to see that Sakura wasn't behind it, and it wasn't until they heard their names that they realized they were screwed. "Kiba! Akamaru!" Sakura yelled, drawing their attention. Their jaws dropped when they saw Sakura carrying a massive chunk of rock with only one arm. "Try this on for size," she exclaimed, hurling the rock at her opponents. Kiba rolled out of the way, leaving Akamaru to take the full brunt of the attack. "Akamaru!" Kiba yelled, concerned for his partner. The dog had reverted to his original form as soon as he was hit by the rock, which knocked him out. "Don't be concerned. I'll thrash her for you. Sakura, you'll pay for it. I'm not going to be gentle with you anymore." He returned his gaze to the pinkette, only to notice that two kunais with explosive tags on their handles had just landed in front of him. "Uh-oh." he exclaimed before being engulfed in an explosion. In the stands. Damn, forehead's giving it to him, huh? Exclaimed Ino. That girl's gotten stronger since we fought in the preliminary round. Yes, I believe you are correct, Ino. Kiba had no idea those were coming. Choji stated. Troublesome, Kiba received it for underestimating her, Shikamaru muttered. Remind me not to annoy Sakura-chan again. Naruto spoke nervously, his face flushed from witnessing his teammate fight. I don't think I can take it. He continued, causing everyone to sweat. Man, I think I'd like to invite her for a spar after this. She proudly declared, drawing a, are you serious? Look from everyone. What? What's the harm in sparring with her? I enjoy a good challenge. Everyone just stared at her as if she had a death wish. In the arena. Kiba was still standing after the explosion had died down, thanks in part to his ability to block the majority of the damage dealt to him. What a great move to take advantage of your opponent's distraction. He exclaimed, opening his eyes again. Now it's my. Before he could continue, Sakura appeared directly in front of him, widening his eyes. Chaw. She yelled, punching Kiba in the chest, knocking the air out of his lungs and causing him to spit blood. The force of the attack then sent him flying towards the wall, before he succumbed to defeat alongside Akamaru on the ground. Sakura brushed some dust and dirt off her clothes as loud cheers of applause erupted from the audience. That was one issue solved. She now had to assist her teammate in dealing with the stronger of the two, Shino Aburame. She looked at Temari and Shino, who were fighting on the other side of the arena, and quickly devised a plan to catch the bug user off guard. Temari and Shino have been fighting each other ever since, but neither has gained an advantage. Temari would always sneak in her wind attacks using her fan whenever Shino had an opening, but they would always fall short due to the bug insects. User's the best option right now is to fight until one of them runs out of chakra. Sure, it would be exhausting, but it was the only option both Genins had because neither of them was willing to give in. Because of Temari's wind, the battlefield they were fighting on was free of spikes. Shino was met with a hard knee that sent him stumbling back after dodging another strike from the girl. Temari took advantage right away, preparing her fan for one of her signature jutsus. I have you now. Jutsu no Kamaitachi. She yelled, directing a powerful gust of air at Shino. She had used this technique against Tenten in the preliminary round, and it had worked flawlessly, defeating her in record time. Mushi Bunshin no Jutsu, he mumbled quietly, his insects reforming in front of him to form a clone of himself. The clone pushed him away from Temari's wind as it succumbed to the wind user's jutsu. Temari's eyes narrowed in irritation. Not bad at all. Temari said as she charged at him once more. However, it will not be enough to defeat me. Shino charged at her as well, drawing his own kunai. Temari smiled evilly, while Shino remained expressionless. But before they could collide, a shuriken flew past them, causing the two of them to come to a halt. They recognized Sakura as the person who threw the kunai. Are you trying to kill me? Temari exclaimed, a tick mark appearing on her brow. Pinky, you're supposed to deal with that puppy boy. Already done. The pinkette exclaimed, causing Shino and Temari to freeze in their tracks. They looked around, only to see Kiba and Akamaru defeated on the other side of the arena. Amazing, to think she fought Kiba at a disadvantage and won. Shino reflected. Wait, what? That girl did it all by herself and didn't need my assistance? This is bad for our cause. Temari pondered. So, why did you toss that shuriken? What are you talking about? Temari went on. We're supposed to collaborate here. So get off your duff and help me deal with this guy. Why don't you check where the shuriken landed then? Sakura suggested, prompting Temari to examine the wall where it had landed. Her eyes widened as she noticed that the shuriken thrown by Pinkett had struck one of the first two kunais she had thrown at the start of the fight. It landed on the small pouch the kunai was carrying, causing it to emit purple smoke. "Wait, what is that?" Temari asked, raising an eyebrow at the smoke the pouch was emitting. Shino suddenly exclaimed and threw a shuriken. "Shuriken no jutsu!" He screamed, controlling the direction of the shuriken before it was cut short by Temari's wind, which also spread the smoke. "I understand now," she exclaimed. "That smoke is lethal." The arena was filled with gasps. "And the poison has an effect on this guy's insects. That's why he reacted so quickly. Good thinking." Sakura exclaimed as she hurled another shuriken at the kunai at the far end of the arena, releasing its poison cloud as well. "Use your wind to spread it all over the arena. Don't be concerned. It will only affect insects. You don't have to tell me what to do." Temari said smugly as she prepared her fan for another flap, but she was cut off by Shino's voice. "Stop!" he yelled. "What a strategy, Sakura!" "You caught me off guard," in hushed tones, he said. "I withdraw from the game. I can't stand by and watch my insects suffer as a result of poison." He began to walk away from the battlefield, hands in his pockets. The match is won by Sakura Haruno and Temari of the Sand. Genma declared, and a chorus of applause erupted throughout the arena. Naruto could be seen cheering for his friend from the stands. Sakura smiled warmly when Ino winked and gave her a thumbs up. Lee was still talking about his comments about the flames of youth, and so on. Sakura was always doubting herself at the time. She never imagined she'd be able to stand on her own without the assistance of her comrades. So what if she had an ally in this battle? They never asked for help from one another during the entire match, and the only time they showed teamwork was during the climax, so she can be considered to have fought her own singles match, which was against the heir of the Inuzuka clan. Sakura can admit to herself that she would not have gotten this far without Haku's guidance. She was so caught up in the moment that she found herself outstretching her hand towards Temari, a bright smile on her face. She cocked her brow inwardly. What was the situation? Earlier, she scoffed at Temari's remark about her relationship with the Pinkett, but now Sakura was reaching out to her once-in-a-lifetime teammate. Temari appeared surprised by Sakura's actions. Without realizing it, she found herself reaching out for the Pinkett with her own hand, intending to accept this friendly gesture. Then there was silence. Nobody moved an inch. From their vantage point, not even the cages. Not even Naruto, the ostensibly loudmouth. Not even the audience. Asuna Kunoichi and Konoha Kunoichi are about to shake hands. The two villages had been at odds for years, despite the fact that they were currently neutral. Still, they were two villages that couldn't stand each other. But would this really happen? Among two young Kunoichis? Slap. Evidently not. Sakura drew her hand back and hissed in pain, eliciting gasps and murmurs from the large audience. She gave the Sand Nin a confused and angry look, but Temari simply returned it with a smirk of her own as she crossed her arms under her breasts. "Didn't I say that this battle changes nothing between us, Haruno Sakura?" she said, emphasizing the name Pinkett. Many of the Konoha genins in the stands were glaring at the fan user for her lack of camaraderie and sportsmanship. However, none more so than Naruto. How could she have hurt one of his friends? He wanted to rush down there and kick her behind for being so rude to Sakura, but he knew what would happen if he did. I apologize if she is OOC in this section. Sakura clenched her fists in response to Temari's bravado, while the latter simply smirked in order to provoke the Pinkett even more. But, just in case, her hand was already behind her back, reaching for her fan. Sakura gritted her teeth, filling the arena with tension. But, too quickly to notice, Naruto had already flown down to the arena, grabbed Sakura, and flew out of there. Temari blinked her eyes open to see that the pinkette was no longer standing in front of her. Her hand moved away from the fan behind her back as she searched for Sakura. Sand Eyes Nin's widened as she noticed she was already back in the stands, next to Naruto. Temari was the one who clenched her fists and scowled this time. That Uzumaki. She grumbled in her head. This flying ability of his is becoming irritating. That would have been the ideal time to launch the attack. She turned to face Gaara in the stands. And Gaara won't have to face him, because I can tell Gaara craves his blood. If that happens, the entire plan could fail before it even begins. She concluded as she walked calmly out of the arena. In the stands. When Sakura saw Naruto standing in front of her, she looked around. Her classmates and teachers were all staring at her. That meant she was no longer in the arena, for one thing. Wah. She began, but Naruto interrupted her. Flew down there, he said, shrugging. I couldn't let something bad happen. Pinkette sighed, her fists relaxed, and she looked at the floor. Thanks. I'm not sure what I would have done if you hadn't intervened. Perhaps I would have attacked her or something. Don't worry about it. Anyway, don't beat yourself up about it. What matters is that you were fantastic out there earlier. He finished loudly and cheerfully, flashing his grin and catching the pinkette off guard. What? She asked, perplexed. Don't tell me you forgot about your earlier fight? Everyone thought she was amazing earlier. He turned to all the genins present at the time. Sakura's eyes widened as they all responded with a loud, yeah. Did they think she did well? Of course, you go, forehead. Ino exclaimed. I'm overjoyed for you. Yes, Sakura-chan. Exclaimed Lee. The flames of youth are also burning bright in you. Very well done. I have to say, what a performance, Shino said, having arrived shortly after forfeiting the match. I hope you are promoted to the rank of Chunin. You've earned it. Don't be concerned about Kiba. I'm sure he's not mad at you. Hey, you did great, said Shikamaru with a yawn. You were incredible, Sakura. Exclaimed Choji, widening his smile. Sakura twiddled her fingers shyly as she looked down at her feet. Oh. Thanks, guys, she stammered, embarrassed. To be honest, I really didn't know how I was doing earlier, she came to a halt. A warm hand then touched her scalp. When she looked up, she saw Haku smiling at her. I admire you, Sakura, she said. Your preparation paid off, and you performed admirably on the field. I hope you get that promotion, girl. She lightly pinched the pinkette's nose. Sakura encircled the ice waste users and buried her face in Haku's chest. Thank you, Haku-sensei, she mumbled, barely audible to Haku. Naruto was right about you. You're a good person, and without you, I wouldn't have gotten this far. To return the hug, the ice user wrapped her arms around the pinkette as well. Sakura raised her head a few moments later. Oh, Sakura, don't say that. Haku retorted. All I did was give you a little push, and you pushed yourself all the way. Pinkette smiled one more time before pulling away and walking towards Naruto. Sakura broke the silence after a few seconds of staring at each other. I saw you earlier cheering for me. And? I appreciate you believing in me and believing that I could do it. He shook his head and looked down at the arena. So I had no choice. If I didn't cheer for you, Sasuke Teme would beat me up, in a playful tone, he said. Sakura's eyes widened and she blushed furiously when she heard this. Baka. She screamed, her demonic aura flaring, before punching him in the face, causing everyone in the room to sweat. I'm serious here. She warned him quietly, causing Naruto to flush. Okay, okay. He exclaimed, throwing up his arms in defeat and scratching his head. What else can I say? You did an excellent job earlier. In fact, If you keep it up, you'll be as powerful as me and Teme. She blushed in humiliation. Oh, I'll never catch up to the two of you, she sighed. With Sasuke Sharingan Kun's and your strange eyes from earlier, you two are miles ahead of me. Forget about our damn eyes, he said solemnly, prompting the pinkette to raise an eyebrow at him. Our eyes are merely extras. What matters is what is inside of us, he tapped his chest a couple of times. Sakura-chan, it's not about our abilities or what we can do. It's about what you fight for. That is what is important. Her pupils dilated. So, based on that, I'd say you're pretty close to our level. Sakura-chan, keep it up. I'm confident you can do it. He nodded and gave her a thumbs up. The pinkette's heart swelled with joy. Here in front of her was the boy she used to despise being around. She had always made fun of him, called him names, and preferred Sasuke over him, and now he was encouraging her to keep going. To continue training in order to improve. She wiped her eyes quickly to prevent any tears from falling out. She didn't want to appear weak at this time. Many thanks, Naruto. Don't bring it up. We're teammates as well as friends. He gave his trademark grin. Everything was quiet for a few moments until a loud voice from the arena drew everyone's attention. Genma cleared his throat before turning to face the cage box. He averted his gaze back to the crowd when he noticed the Hokage giving him a slight nod. The semifinals have concluded. Please show your support for the 4 finalists: Gaara of the Sand, Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, and Temari of the Sand. Applause erupted in the arena for a few moments before Genma spoke again. Now that the semifinals are finished, we can move on to the finals. The 4 finalists will compete in pairs, and the last man standing, either by knockout or forfeit, will win. The Chunin rank is immediately awarded to the 2 remaining Genins who win their battles. Then there was a round of applause, which was accompanied by a lot of hand clapping. But that is not the end of the story. Then there was silence. The final 2 Genins will compete for the title of Elite Chunin. The eyes of all Konoha's Genin ninja in the stands widened. The overall winner will be awarded the Elite Chunin rank, while the Hokage and Kazekage will decide which Genins will be promoted to Chunin rank. Let's get started with the first match of the finals. In the stands. Elite Chunin, you say? Naruto stated. I've never heard of that. Neither do I, but I like the way it sounds. Sakura exclaimed cheerfully. Well, it appears that the Chunin exams this year are special, Kakashi said, which confused both the blonde and the pinkette. What do you mean, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura inquired. Oh, you probably have no idea. You see, the last time the Chunin exams offered the prize of Elite Chunin was during the reign of the second Hokage. According to the elders, including Hokage-sama, he paused for a moment to laugh at himself. Nidaim's Genins were all very skilled and exceptional, which is why he raised the stakes with the Elite Chunin rank. Given Hokage decision, Sama's, it appears that all Genin for this year are very skilled and exceptional as well. Whoa, the 2 teammates muttered simultaneously. I understand that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. However, you must be one of the top 2 finalists to be eligible for that rank. I want to be Elite Chunin, yelled Naruto and Sakura simultaneously. Kakashi laughed at the 2 of them for their determination, and everything was fine between them until Naruto noticed someone staring at him. When he looked around, he noticed that Gaara, the youngest of the Sand siblings, was the only one who was staring at him coldly. The blonde looked at him with suspicion. Do you have a problem? He inquired. Mother says you're very exceptional, Uzumaki, Gaara replied, releasing a smidgen of killer intent. I will demonstrate my existence by murdering you in these exams. This caused Naruto and him to lock gazes until Genma's voice from the arena caught both of their attention. In the arena. Please proceed to the arena, Uzumaki, Naruto and Gaara of the Sand. The two shinobi exchanged glances before Naruto flew to the far end of the arena with his meteor and Gaara transported himself to the opposite end of the battlefield with his sand. The arena had returned to normal, with no trace of the previous battle remaining. Kit, I know I said I wouldn't help you before, but this time is different. Shukaku, that's the Ichibi's Jinchuriki. Kurama said from within Naruto's mind. So, do you want me to assist you? That crazy Tanuki appears to be on the verge of blowing up at any moment. No, I want to do it myself. Naruto responded. Just give me a chakra refill when I need it. I'd also like to see how my abilities fare on someone like me. Kurama shrugged and leaned back on his arms, trying to sleep. Back in the real world, the two combatants maintained their demeanors until the redhead finally decided to snap. Such beautiful eyes. Gaara said, his eyes widening with a sick smile. You're going to be mine, Uzumaki. Naruto gave a disgusted look as if he was about to puke. Yura, no way, dude. He muttered mockingly. I'm not bisexual. He exclaimed, eliciting laughter from the audience while Gaara became enraged. After all, I already have someone in my heart. Why would I settle for you? That was the final straw. Gaara was extremely irritated. He emitted a lethal wave of sand that was heading straight for Naruto. The blonde narrowed his eyes before charging towards it and launching two energy beams that destroyed Gaara's sand. When the redhead noticed Naruto approaching him, his eyes widened. Fortunately for him, his sand managed to protect him from the blonde's powerful punch. So his sand is that fast, he thought before leaping away, but he was stopped by Gaara's sand wrapping itself around his foot. The redhead smiled sadistically before slowly approaching Naruto. Fortunately for the blonde, Genma stepped in between them, arms wide open. He gave Gaara a cold stare. The match has not yet begun, Gaara of the Sand. I recommend that you release Uzumaki Naruto right now, return to where you were before, and wait for my signal to officially begin this. Or would you rather do it the hard way? He took out a kunai and assumed a battle stance. Before releasing Naruto from his sand's grasp, the redhead growled angrily. Naruto was about to charge at Gaara for retaliation as soon as he felt he could move freely, but was stopped by a glare from Genma. Instead, the two returned to their original locations and simply waited, but they continued to give each other menacing looks, causing the majority of the audience to groan in frustration, disappointed that the match would not begin right away. After about a minute, the two had finally calmed down and were just waiting for the proctor's signal to begin the match. Genma kept staring at them the entire time, making sure they didn't try anything. He then decided to restart the match for good. Are both fighters prepared? He asked, his gaze narrowed at the two. He took a deep breath and both genins nodded. Hajime. Naruto versus Gaara. Gaara had most of his sand out in the open, ready to be launched at Naruto, while the blonde kept a close eye on him with his Uchtengan blazing to life. Gaara suddenly clutched his head in pain, causing Naruto to raise an eyebrow in perplexity. That Ichibi must be messing with his mind, he thought as he watched the redhead attempt to alleviate his pain. After a few moments, the pain subsided, and Gaara slowly looked up at Naruto, his face bloodthirsty and his teeth baring. I will prove my existence, Uzumaki. He roared, sending a wave of sand towards the blonde, eager to wrap things up as soon as possible. Naruto avoided it, but then he noticed the sand separating into different waves, attempting to catch the blonde off guard. When Naruto saw this, he flew up in the air with his meteor and looked down at Gaara. The redhead grumbled angrily before launching another wave of sand into the air to crush Naruto, but it couldn't keep up with his meteor's speed. Let's give it a shot. Naruto thought as he flew down quickly, easily avoiding all of Gaara's sand. He cocked his fist back and delivered a fast right punch that hit the redhead in the cheek, causing him to stumble back. Naruto moved too quickly for the sand to protect Gaara. Naruto landed on the other side of the arena before anything else could happen to him, as the yellow light that had been covering him slowly faded. I'm curious how much damage he took. As soon as Gaara stood up, Naruto noticed a small crack in his opponent's sand armor, which had already begun to reform. Now I see why Lee had trouble with this guy, Naruto thought as he focused on Gaara's sand, trying to find a weakness around it while he still had time. My meteor is faster than his sand, but I can't use it for the duration of the fight. The Rainmaker has raindrops on it, but I'll need to be very close to him to perform it, and doing so puts my life in danger. My water jutsus can theoretically slow it down, but I doubt it will last long. Wait a minute. An idea occurred to him. I wonder. Gaara clenched his teeth and hurled a powerful wave of sand at Naruto. Raisa Bakuri! He exclaimed, adding more chakra to his jutsu to make it larger and more lethal. Naruto quickly practiced some hand signs and prepared his own jutsu. Kaden. Gorika no Jutsu. He yelled, erupting a massive dragon-shaped flame with the same added chakra that was heading towards the sand wave.
The two attacks collided and negated each other, but in the process, the sand crystallized, giving Naruto an inward smile.
Wait a minute, I was right. Naruto pondered. I have him now. He looked at Gaara, who was perplexed as to what had happened to his sand. Greetings, Gaara. Naruto called out, attracting the attention of the redhead. I hope you went to chemistry class. He teased. Gaara's eye twitched in irritation as he heard his mother, Shukaku, yelling from within his head for him to prove his existence by killing Naruto. Suna Shuriken, he said, launching a dozen shuriken made entirely of sand at Naruto. The blonde then created 4 meteor rocks out of nothing in front of him. Chanten. Shwakusei no Akari. He threw out his right arm, launching all the rocks at Gaara's shuriken. All of the sand shuriken lost their shape when they collided with the meteor rock due to their composition and sheer hardness. The redhead raised his sand to protect himself from Naruto's 4 rocks, which worked well. However, Naruto only smirked and made a fist with his right hand. To everyone's surprise, the 4 meteor rocks suddenly compressed into extremely small particles, allowing them to pass through Gaara's sand and strike his body. The redhead then felt a stinging sensation in his abdomen, causing him to lower his shield in pain. In the stands. Shit, Gaara got smacked hard. Kankuro said, wincing in pain. I hope Gaara doesn't lose control right away, Tamari thought to herself. If he does, the plan will fail before our forces arrive. While Kakashi and the others were completely focused on the battle, they were interrupted by the arrival of Sasuke Uchiha. He was bandaged all over his body, clutching his right arm due to his use of the Chidori, and limping his way towards Kakashi. Sakura was the first to approach him, despite the fact that everyone was surprised to see him there given that he was supposed to be recovering in the infirmary. Hey, Sasuke-kun. She said cheerfully. Are you alright? You appear to be a shambles. And what about your right arm? You should still be in the hospital. I'm fine, he said. This is nothing, I'm just feeling numb right now, don't worry about me. He went on, referring to his right arm. Sakura gave a nod. By the way, congratulations on winning your match. He gave her a small smile. Thank you, she said, her cheeks blushing slightly. He made his way towards Kakashi after leaving Sakura, and it was clear that the Uchiha was in a bad mood at the time. Is there a problem, Sasuke? Kakashi inquired. You knew, didn't you? He said angrily, pointing to his sensei. Kakashi returned a puzzled expression. Didn't you know the truth about the Dobi's eyes? Kakashi-sensei, tell the truth. I'm not interested in hearing your lies. Kakashi exhaled a sigh. He knew the question would come, but he didn't expect it so soon. Perhaps I did, what's wrong with that? He admitted, widening Sasuke's eyes and causing everyone to gasp. Kakashi was privy to Naruto's secret? But how? Did he figure it out on his own? Or did Naruto entrust him with his secret? In any case, knowing about the Uchtengan would explain why the blonde seemed close to him. Sasuke scowled at Kakashi as he shook his head. "How come you didn't tell me?" he demanded. "When we were kids, Naruto told me there was something strange going on with his eyes, and I still remember it. You could have trusted me with his secret as well. I'm his buddy." Kakashi crossed his arms and looked suspiciously at Sasuke. "If that's the case, Sasuke, Naruto would have told you about it a long time ago. I don't see why you should blame me for not telling you unless he has a reason not to. You see, I found out about this myself because he didn't tell me. I confronted him about it after discovering it, and he trusted me with it. Then why didn't that Dobi tell me about this?" he exclaimed, fists clutching his jet black hair. "I could have assisted him in learning more about his Uchtengan or something similar," he moaned. "So, do you recall anything Naruto said to you during your earlier fight? He must have told you something about his eyes at the time." Sasuke then reflected on it and suddenly remembered. Naruto told him how he became stronger because of the people he cared about, and the blonde advised him to change his ways and views on power because they would only lead him astray. The Uchiha scoffed, shook his head, and maintained a hard stare on Kakashi before shifting his gaze to the fight below. After all of this, he'll undoubtedly be speaking with Naruto. After a brief conversation, hopefully, things will be clearer between them. In the cage box. Rock manipulation to the point of reducing it to the size of a tiny particle. Orochimaru thought, smiling madly. Not even Earth users like the Tsuchikage can do that. And he can create rocks from nothing. Indeed, a fantastic ability. Yes, Uzumaki, keep dancing. In my opinion, your eyes might even outperform the Sharingan. He's taken that jutsu to a whole new level. Hiruzen smiled happily. I have to say, he has some brains for controlling the size of the rocks in order to hit Gaara. Keep going, my boy. If you exceed my expectations, you will not only receive Chunin rank, but also, before he could continue, another voice in his head spoke. Hokage-sama, it's me, said the voice that Hiruzen recognized as Naruto's summon, Mika. Mika-san? When did you arrive, and where are you now? He responded with his thoughts. I am currently observing Naruto and his opponent from the sky, and I just arrived from the summon realm a few moments ago. Do you have anything to say to me, Mika-san? Indeed, Hokage-sama. It's about the sand and the sound's plan to invade the village. Hiruzen's eyes gradually widened. He'd completely forgotten because he was too preoccupied with watching Naruto fight. What do you want to tell me? Please hurry, I'm sorry, but I forgot about that plan. I looked into the person beside you's thoughts and saw that the invasion will begin as soon as the boy Naruto's fighting allows the Ichibi to take over himself. Furthermore, the enemy is on the move, Hokage-sama. I saw them marching about 2 miles away towards the village. This is a truly perilous situation. Hiruzen sighed, tapping his chin as he considered a possible solution to this problem. Mika-san, I'm afraid I can't leave right now. Not without raising the Kage's suspicions, Orochimaru. So it appears that I have no choice. I'd like you to tell Kakashi-kun about our conversation. Inform him that I have directed him to prepare our main forces while I handle informing the Anbu. But, please, avoid any potential suspicion from anyone else. Good day, Hokage-sama. I'll notify him. Good, the Hokage thought to himself before Mika cut off their connection. He leaned on his elbow and massaged his irritated temple. He cast a glance at the cage beside him, who was entirely focused on the match taking place below. Orochimaru, what are you thinking? In the arena. Gaara clutched his stomach in pain as he looked up at Naruto in pure rage and anger before feeling pain rush back to his head, causing the blonde Uzumaki to look at him in confusion. After a few moments, he stood up, his head low, his gaze fixed on the ground. He then raised his right arm, indicating Naruto. Everyone, including Naruto, was clearly taken aback by what happened next. A massive amount of his sand flew out of his gourd, forming a massive wall of sand behind him that dwarfed all of his previous attacks in size. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. That's a lot of sand, he thought to himself before turning to face Gaara. I wonder how much sand is in that gourd of his. Gaara slowly raised his gaze to his adversary, a hollow expression on his face quickly morphing into a sinister one. Die, Uzumaki! He yelled, unleashing a massive wave of sand on Naruto. Shit, that thing's fast, remarked Naruto, taking a step back in fear. What should I do now? If I use my meteor, I might be able to. No, with the size of that sand, it might cover all directions and keep me from escaping. Oh no, here it comes. The sand was only a few meters away now, and he had an idea at the same time. Okay, I haven't used this one yet, but I'm hoping it works. Boar, dog, dragon, bird, hare, serpent, horse, Uchten, Kinboshi no I. He yelled as he breathed out a continuous stream of fire that headed straight for Gaara's attack. The two jutsus collided, and the sand was quickly dominated by the flames Naruto created, and the sand was completely disintegrated in as little as 5 seconds. Naruto paused his attack as soon as he noticed the sand had vanished. Gaara was stunned that the blonde could overwhelm and destroy his sand in such a short period of time. Naruto cleared his throat and began speaking in a teacherly tone. Don't underestimate my ferocity. 100 facts about space that you should know. Venus has the highest temperature, which means its fire can melt even the toughest metals here, let alone destroy sand. The audience let out a wave of gasps, clearly focused on the match, while Naruto laughed at his own remark. Gaara growled and slammed his palms against the ground. While the blonde was distracted by his laughter, 2 large sand arms rose from the ground and grasped him by the ankles, effectively immobilizing him. Naruto looked down at his feet to see what was up because he felt something grab hold of him, but Gaara didn't even give him a chance. Uzumaki, I will spill your blood. Ki Sabaku. Gaara roared in rage, raising his right arm and letting his sand cover Naruto's body up to the point where he was completely hidden by the redhead's sand. Gaara closed his fist suddenly, flashing an evil grin. Sabaku S's. He exclaimed, increasing the pressure inside the sand and crushing Naruto within it. Finally, I have demonstrated my existence. Gaara laughed evilly as he struggled to his feet and started walking, believing he had finally won the match and spilled Naruto's blood. Naruto. From the stands, Sakura screamed. Everyone else was waiting for something to happen, including Sasuke. Following that, everyone in the arena, including Gaara, froze in shock upon hearing a voice from within the sand. Really? Is this your best effort? It was Naruto's unmistakable voice from within the sand. Gaara's eyes widened as he looked behind him to see Naruto use his blazing comet to destroy the sand that was covering him. The sand was already disintegrating due to the extreme temperature of the blonde's hands. The blue flames from Naruto's hands began to fade. Now it's my turn, he exclaimed as he dashed towards Gaara, a determined expression on his face. Jikaki no Jutsu, Kaiten. He exhaled a massive fireball that was heading straight for Gaara. The redhead quickly summoned all of his remaining sand to shield himself, but this time he added more chakra to prevent it from turning into glass. Daitopa, Eften. Naruto released a gust of wind, which magnified and amplified his previous attack, creating a swirling vortex of flames. Suna no Tate, Sand Shield, said the redhead, causing all of his remaining sand to form a thin shell around him rather than a thick one. Naruto appeared to have destroyed a significant amount of his sand, and Gaara could only hope that the remainder of his sand could withstand an enhanced fireball, as he was running low on chakra and it was only a matter of time before he used it all up. Naruto's attack landed on the sand, engulfing it in flames. The flames died down about a half-minute later, revealing Gaara inside a crystallized glass dome with a glare on his face. Naruto smirked, thinking he'd finally gotten him, before hurling an energy beam at the glass, shattering it completely. "What are you going to do without your sand, Gaara?" Naruto inquired smugly. "You made the wrong choice, Uzumaki," Gaara said as he examined a set of hand seals. "Suna Kish, sand absorption," he said, slamming his palms against the ground. Not long after, the redhead began sucking sand from the ground, causing Naruto's eyes to widen in surprise. "By compressing underground minerals, I can create and absorb sand beneath the ground," he continued, finishing absorbing the sand as he was now restocked. "What can you do now, Uzumaki?" "I am unbeatable as long as I have sand," Gaara finished with a threatening tone, ready to fight again. "I guess trying to get rid of his sand is pointless after all." Naruto sighed deeply as he realized that cutting off Gaara's supply was pointless. "In the cage box. They're very skilled," the Hokage said. "I think they'd be fantastic as Chunins if they were promoted." "Indeed they are," the Kazekage said before turning to face Hiruzen. "However, I'm going to have to say that this victory belongs to my son." "What makes you think that?" asked the Sandaime, raising an eyebrow. "You were praising Naruto abilities Kun's before, but now you're rooting for a shinobi from your village. For starters, his eyes will eventually fail, whereas Gaara can create more sand if he runs out. In a different light, the Uzumaki will yield first, rather than my son. You saw how his eyes went out earlier, didn't you?" Hiruzen gave a nod. "I believe the same thing will happen in this match." "Let's find out, then," Hiruzen said, returning his attention to the fight below. In the stands. What the hell happened? How does that Dobi get away with throwing jutsus around like it's nothing? He's been doing it since the beginning of the game. He should be finished with chakra by now. Sasuke stated. "I believe you should learn a little bit about his family history, Sasuke," said Kakashi, causing the Uchiha to look up, puzzled. Through his mother, Naruto is a member of the Uzumaki clan, a once powerful clan that was massacred during the Second Shinobi World War. I believe Naruto is the last one standing today, but that's not what I'm talking about. The clan's members are known for two things. One is for their incredible sealing ability, and the other is for their massive chakra reserves. Naruto possesses more chakra than I, the Hokage, or anyone else in the village. But don't those jutsus he uses with his eyes necessitate a massive amount of chakra? I don't think so, or Naruto would have collapsed by now. Wow. Young Naruto is truly a child with the fountain of youth within him, Kakashi. Gaia exclaimed. That student of yours has a lot of potential, Asuma said. That's pretty much it. Kakashi finished with a shrug of his shoulders. Except for earlier, I've never seen Naruto run out of chakra. That was the first time I saw him almost defeated, but I believe his eyes going out at the same time contributed to it. Sasuke looked at Kakashi for a few more seconds before returning his attention to the fight below, specifically Naruto. Could this be what that Dobi was talking about years ago? He wondered. I remember him asking me that there was something weird about his eyes, but I didn't see anything. I can tell he's just getting started in this fight, he's not tired yet. Dobi, how much stronger have you gotten? Kakashi, Asuma, and Guy were all laughing about Naruto being his student when he heard a voice in his head speak to him. Kakashi-san, Hokage-sama has sent you a message. In his thoughts, Kakashi asked, Mika? You've arrived. Is there any news about the impending invasion? Is Jiraiya-sensei here yet? I arrived not long ago, she says. The enemy's forces are advancing by the second, but they do not appear hostile at this time. They appear to be waiting for a signal. Jiraiya-san hasn't arrived yet, but I have a feeling he'll be here soon. A signal, you say? It's not a bad idea. It would catch us off guard, but we already know about it. Anyway, What was Hokage-sama trying to tell me? He charged you with inspecting the village's main forces and ensuring that they are ready. He also advised not to raise suspicions in the eyes of others, particularly the 2 people who assisted in the execution of this plan. I'll tell Naruto about it as well, but only after he's finished fighting. I understand, I'll be on my way, he said before Mika cut off their connection. Back in the real world, he paused in his laughter with Guy and Asuma and rubbed the back of his head. I'm sorry, guys. But I need to check on something. I'll be right back, he said as he walked away from them and toward the door. Tell me who won between them as soon as I get back, he said as he opened the door and went inside. What is he up to? Asuma inquired. Guy only shrugged before returning to watch the fight unfold. In the arena. This is it, Uzumaki, Gaara snarled as he went through another batch of hand seals. Raisa Bakuri, he yelled, and a massive wave of sand erupted in front of him, heading straight for Naruto. That again? He mocked, before repeating the hand seals he did earlier on a certain jutsu, but halfway through it, 2 sand arms sprouted from the ground and grabbed him by the ankles. Oh no, he got me, he thought to himself as he looked in front of him and saw a wave of sand. The arena was completely covered in sand in a matter of seconds. Genma predicted that Gaara would perform a dangerous technique, so he jumped into the audience and watched the match from there. Only Gaara was visible below, with no sign of Naruto, implying that he was trapped beneath the thick layer of sand. Sabaku Tai's giant sand burial, said Gaara, slamming both of his palms into the sand. Shockwaves then erupted from his hands, causing the entire arena to tremble slightly. Gaara struggled to stand up, exhausted. You were frail. Anything beneath the sand is crushed. Uzumaki, you lose, he said, taking deep breaths. Gaara may have won the match, but it took its toll on him. His sand absorption and giant sand burial require more chakra than the majority of his jutsus, causing his chakra levels to plummet. Didn't your mother tell you never to run away from a fight? A muffled voice yelled from beneath the sand, eliciting gasps from the audience and a stunned expression on Gaara's face. How could Naruto still be alive after being buried in a massive layer of sand before being crushed? He ought to be dead. Corona! Exclaimed Uchten. Naruto continued, and the sand covering the blonde's body disintegrated almost instantly. He was lying down on the ground not far from his opponent before standing up without a scratch. There was a reddish aura covering his body, and Gaara simply stared at him, astounded that he had managed to escape his most dangerous jutsu yet. Here's some chakra for you, Kit. You should finish this before it worsens, Kurama said from within his head as the fox gave him some of his chakra. Thank you, Naruto thought as he stared Gaara down and the reddish aura around him faded. I'm calling it quits right now, he yelled, clasping his hands together in search of a familiar seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, says one. 5 clones of the blonde Uzumaki appeared beside him, their Uchtengan also blazing. Scatter! Exclaimed the real one, before the other 5 took off in different directions with meteor. The true Naruto then charged at Gaara. Seeing his adversary create shadow clones jolted Gaara out of his stupor as he saw Naruto charging towards him. He began sending out multiple waves of sand at the blonde in an attempt to stop him, but Naruto managed to avoid them all. Gaara gritted his teeth and instead built a sand wall in front of him to block any attack Naruto might make. But then he heard a voice behind him, and his eyes widened. Uchten! Dosei no Ringu! 3 clones yelled from behind Gaara. They were flying high above the ground with their meteors, each creating an energy disk on their palms. When Gaara turned to send a sand wave at them, they flew around it and threw the discs directly at the redhead, engulfing him in an explosion that destroyed the sand wall he had built. Gaara survived because he had sand to protect him at the time. He struggled to his feet again, and as soon as he did, he heard Naruto's voice from in front and behind him. Rain MK! Screamed the two clones as they caught Gaara in a dilemma. The redhead screamed in agony as his throat was crushed by the double lariat performed on him by Naruto's clones. As the two clones jumped away from Gaara, his sand armor on his neck and chest began to crack. As soon as the clones left, the redhead dropped to his knees and coughed to regain his breathing. But his slumber was cut short when he heard Naruto's voice again. He looked up to see the blonde, clone or not, approaching him. As he was still recovering, his sand began to naturally exit his gourd and form a wall in front of him. Naruto noticed his opponent's defense and quickly performed some hand seals. Tiger ox hare monkey rat ox dog ram rat, Uchten, Moru Susei. He yelled, allowing blue flames to cover his arms and hands. And as he approached Gaara's sand wall, he threw a punch at it, causing it to disintegrate instantly. Gaara scowled from the other side, and Naruto took advantage of the situation to perform the starfall. The redhead's sand armor began to crack more and more with each blow Naruto delivered, and it appeared as if it was about to be destroyed. When Naruto launched him into the air with his right uppercut, the blonde's legs burst into blue flames as he delivered the axe kick with such force that it sent Gaara crashing down on the arena. The impact of the redhead on the ground completely destroyed his sand armor, and everyone in the audience heard a few bones crack. They shivered in terror, convinced that he was dead, because no one could have survived such an assault. To everyone's surprise, Gaara managed to stand up after much struggle. Gaara panted in exhaustion as he struggled to maintain his balance, which he failed at every attempt. Naruto was already in front of him, his fist cocked back. The redhead snarled as he locked his gaze on the blondes, knowing there was no way out, his sand couldn't protect him. Feel the might of fallen stars. Uranai Hoshi. Naruto slammed his fist into Gaara's chest, but because the redhead's sand armor was still reforming, the damage was taken by his actual chest, causing some of his clothes to burn away in the process. The attack sent Gaara flying back into the arena's walls, creating a crater as dust covered the redhead's crash. Gaara was clearly not going to win the match at this point. As his clones poofed into smoke one by one, Naruto deactivated his Uchtengan. He then took a few deep breaths before a round of applause erupted throughout the arena. Naruto looked up at the huge crowd and turned around 360 degrees to see that everyone was clapping for him. Indeed, because of his outstanding performance, even those who had treated him horribly at the time were rooting for him. But instead of reacting or responding, he simply shook his head and walked towards the wall where Gaara had crashed. Naruto stood about 10 meters away from the wall, keeping his distance, and waited for the dust to settle. When the dust settled, everyone could see Gaara slowly rising to his feet and limping towards Naruto. The blonde was just staring at him, unsure what he was doing. The sand began to whirl around him, assisting in the formation of his sand armor around his skin. Gaara came to a halt a few meters away from Naruto before forming the tiger seal. The rest of Gaara's sand began to envelop him, forming a cocoon of hardened sand. The cocoon began to levitate above the ground a few moments later, and the sand compressed a few more times until it took the shape of a small sphere. Following that, the floating sphere of sand simply stopped where it was, and Naruto could hear Gaara say hand seals out loud while performing them from within it. This is bad, Naruto realized. I need to use this, or he'll come out of that little thing stronger than ever, he added, pulling 5 explosive tags from his pocket. He focused his gaze on the sphere of sand in front of him. Let's get this over with quickly, who knows what kind of tricks that can play on me while I'm walking, he concluded in his thoughts as yellow light encircled him. Raisei! He screamed, flying at breakneck speed towards the sand while wrapping the explosive tags around it. Sand spears shot out of the ball of sand that tried to pierce through him the entire time, but Naruto was able to dodge every attempt because his speed in Meteor is unrivaled. Naruto finally landed on the ground, about 15 meters away from the floating ball of sand, after planting all of the explosive tags. After a few seconds, His hands formed the snake hand seal, and the tags went off and started to explode. A few seconds after the explosion, the sandball began to shake and fall to the ground, revealing a mutated Gaara hungry for blood. His arms were replaced with Shukaku's Ichibi arms. He also had Shukaku's tail behind him and Ichibi's skin on his left and right thighs. His legs and feet, on the other hand, remained normal. His face, on the other hand, resembled a monster. Except for the teeth, Gaara's eyes, skin, ears, and nose were all different from Shukaku's. "You made me feel alive, Uzumaki," roared Gaara, his voice mingled with Shukaku's. He sounded so menacing that some people in the audience began to leave because things were getting too strange. Naruto maintained a neutral expression as he faced Gaara. "So that's how he appears when he's out of control, interesting. How powerful is he when?" Before he could finish, another voice began to speak in his own mind. "Can you hear me, Naruto?" asked the voice. "Mika?" he asked, irritably. "What brings you to the real world? Do you have anything important to say to me? I'm still fighting this guy right here because I'm kind of busy right now." "Naruto, this is serious," she said solemnly, causing the blonde to stop talking. "The signal is your opponent transforming into Shukaku. The enemy's forces are approaching, so you must move quickly to take him down while he is still in partial transformation. The invasion has begun."
That's it for today. If you enjoy this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.